Tznius basically, I think, can translate it as gracefulness. And really what Tznius is from the verses, let's say the Snei Lechadim Elokecha, is really the number one way that we're able to take the human condition with its myriad of drives and emotions and try to create a way of directing ourselves correctly with those emotions, not attacking those emotions. So Snei Lechadim Elokecha is to walk with tznius with God, is knowing how to balance those emotions. So the point is let's talk in terms of clothing. I pointed out that the clothing of Adam and Chava, they didn't know how to deal with it. They had all these emotions. They were overtaken by existence. And they didn't know how to relate to God. And their idea was we have to have some way of, we're feeling naked, which means we're feeling very open. And the point is how do you maintain a control on this openness, on this myriad of emotions? So the point is that God basically said, if they tried to cover themselves up with clothes and so forth, then God dressed them. Okay, and God dressed them and basically said, the second viewpoint in Rashi over there, Keton Hasor, was a way of controlling your skin. The skin is the number one way of feeling the world, right? So the point is you need some type of barrier in terms of how you relate to the world. But the fact is in order to be godlike, you do need these ideas. You need these feelings, and that's what the Nachash basically said. The point is that really HaKadosh Baruch Hu was going to do that later in life, but it wasn't supposed to be at that. It was supposed to be after Shabbos that they were going to eat from that. Okay, let me try and rephrase this a little different way. Let me take an example in terms of tznius. I said today, gave the example of the cat. The cat is considered to be the animal that embodies tznius. Now, why is that so? Because the cat, when it goes to the washroom, always does it privately. Now, what does that mean? That means that part of the idea of tznius is knowing the balance of privacy and being public. Okay? Certain activities are private. So the cat, when it goes to the washroom, goes off by itself. That's where you learn tznius from. But the truth is, when you think in terms of the cat, it's graceful. The point is that privacy is somewhat graceful. The point is that the opposite of tznius, in terms of what we call pritzas, is making everything public. Okay? Is being loud. The point is part of it, this is why I said gracefulness is to find tznius, is that part of what we talk about is the idea of carrying yourself and how you carry yourself. And knowing how to balance your private side from your public side. So the fact is that from a tzniistic perspective, there is a relationship which you talk in terms of Adam and Chava, they had a sexual relationship. They didn't have to worry about being public or private because their drives were very much under control through their rational minds. When they understood from the Yetzer Das Tovara, they understood that this was a private drive. So really, when you look in terms of tznius is not an absence of sexuality. Tznius is proper sexuality, and proper sexuality is private. It's an aspect of privacy. It's an aspect of knowing how to carry yourself in terms of this being a private aspect of your life and other things being a public aspect of your life. There's another example of tznius. Okay, the Gemara in Kedushin talks about eating in public. Okay? Gemara says that it's not that a person, there's problems with a person who just eats in public. Okay? The question is whether it's a suda or whether it's just a bite or whatever. The point is that if you look at someone who how they eat, you're eating with manners. You're eating with a certain aspect of understanding that this drive has a certain private aspect. You're not just munching away loudly in front of others without any perception of propriety. The fact is, if you take in terms of the eating drive, yes, there's a way to eat in a tznius manner. There's a way to carry yourself in a tznius manner. And that's where you get into the concepts of privacy and dignity. Okay? And modesty. The truth of the matter is that it's knowing how you balance your drives. But the point is, it doesn't mean that you totally negate the drives. So from a Torah perspective, the burqa would not be a real tzniustic clothing. Yeah, it covers you up, but where's your personality? There's an aspect of showing your personality. There's an aspect of showing yourself, but showing yourself with the balance of the private and the public. That's an aspect of Snei Lechi Yimalokecha, in terms of knowing how you carry yourself in the presence of others. So the truth is that you really see this if you look into the halachas of dress. Halachas of dress is basically how you want to represent yourself in public. Are you representing your total being? I mentioned that one of the aspects of tznius is the idea that you want to present your total personality, not just parts. When you look at what we call pritzes, which is a person who's dressed in a very open way or without any modesty, what they're doing is they're trying to show parts of their body to basically attract another. What they're really saying is, I'm a part. I want to break down things. They're not carrying any aspect of the totality of self. And totality of self demands a certain aspect of grace and privacy in terms of how you handle yourself, with a balance of knowing what's for certain people, what's for other people, how's private, what's not private, and that really is a balancing of knowing how you conduct yourself in the world situation. So we have situations where the public persona is not the loud persona. There's a time where maybe you have to be louder because you're in public, so you have to speak louder or something like that, but that's to balance upon the situation, but you always have to be aware of the fullness of the situation and balancing yourself in that regard. So that really is an aspect of what we think of tznius. Now, I use in this article here this idea of covet brios. It's an aspect of your covet, of human dignity, and the covet you have of others. The truth is, the tznius is really knowing how to handle and relate to the world. What happened with Adam and Chava is that they were overtaken by this onslaught of emotions and drives, which basically erupted in them. Okay? And then they had to know how to deal with them. And that's a challenge we all face.
The cats, the analogy with the cat, is that from Gemara?
Yeah, it's Gemara. Gemara says we can learn different characteristics from certain animals. And that's the characteristic we can learn from the cat. The point of the matter is that many people are open. And in our world today, we think that openness is okay. You know, like I mentioned, like Romans used to go to the bathroom in public, right? That was like a public meeting hall.
Both genders, simultaneously.
I don't know, but you know, you basically got together and you talked while you were what?
Seats in the forum were made to the bathrooms as well,
right.
So they wouldn't have to leave.
Right, and basically everyone talked, and it was all that. And it was a public thing. The truth of the matter is that certain things are private. It's private.
I read, I think, an essay saying that women in Roman society were actually a lot more. They spent a lot more time in the house than they did outside. They didn't really go out. Yeah. So I guess it's probably more of a male thing, but I can't be sure.
Maybe that's why they didn't
That could be it.
Yeah, but you see this in terms of the way people are. They think anything goes. The truth of the matter is, when anything goes, you lose sight of the totality of the person. See, when you're really talking about over here, Snei Lachini Melokecha, it's the fact that we are a myriad of drives. But the drives are all part of a collection of us as human beings. Okay? The number one aspect is for us to maintain our personality. I point this out. Yaakov Avinu, okay, there's different viewpoints in this, but Yaakov Avinu was attracted to Rachel, right? There's a whole variety of issues. When Yaakov saw Rachel, he kissed her. He kissed her. Now, how do you understand that? So Shimshon Hirsch says, don't think he kissed her like in a passionate way. He kissed her as you kiss your relative. Okay? You see your relative, your aunt, your uncle, your cousin, you greet them, you give them a little kiss, a little hug, and so forth and so forth. Now, the truth of the matter is, that's what Shimshon Hirsch says. Now, the truth is that's why Yekers, right, in a lot of Orthodox worlds, and Yekers are pretty strong Orthodox individuals, relatives do greet each other. Relatives will hug each other. Okay? So in a Yeker community under Shimshon Hirsch, he basically saying, hey, two cousins, they greeted themselves. That's what it was. It wasn't a passionate kiss. It was like two cousins greeting themselves, which is totally mutter. Okay? And therefore in the Yeker world, you had relatives touching each other. Okay? That was being considered normal. Right? Okay? You related to your family in that manner. Beyond just there's a whole issue. The Rambam clearly states that a father and mother can hug and kiss their children. The Rambam is not very happy even with siblings, hugging each other and so forth and so forth. He's not very happy about that. But a lot of people say it's clearly okay for siblings to basically. But when you get beyond cousins, a lot of from people they don't but there clearly are Yekers. Example, Shimshon Hirsch said it was that. But another side to it is that Yaakov seems to have been attracted to Rachel. Now, what does that mean? The truth of the matter is, attraction between husband and wife is an attraction of the total self. Now, included in that total self is physical attraction. There is an attraction that includes the physical side to that attraction. Okay? If a husband ever said to his wife, "Listen, I really love you, but I have no physical attraction toward you," the wife would be really upset. The fact of the matter is, you expect to have some what?
That'll go both ways, presumably.
Yes, but the point of the matter is that that's when you start saying, "Hey, the parts come together to create the whole. The parts are part of the whole, right?" Okay, but the point is, there's still the attraction of the whole. So Yaakov had an attraction to the whole, and therefore that he understood Rachel was his beshert. There was the attraction of the whole. That's the full attraction. The point is, in our world today, we're constantly breaking down things. Therefore, we have this loudness of different parts. But it's not just sexual; it's loudness in terms of loud music, or you're not figuring out how to relate in society, in terms of knowing your place in society. Tznius is knowing how to relate in society, knowing how to relate with others. Okay, it's knowing how to walk in public, how to connect in public. It's much more than just the way you dress. Okay, the fact is, I'm trying to think of other examples of it, but the fact is that Tznius is in many ways is talk in terms of language, in terms of knowing your knowing what language to use, right? Tznius is an aspect of not being loud in a vulgar sense, in a too loud in terms of not being aware of others.
So driving a Ferrari wouldn't necessarily be tznius.
You're right. In a certain way, but then for a certain person it might be, depending upon their personality. But the fact is that tznius is very much an aspect of how you relate to others in terms of the full expression of your being. What happened to Adam and Chava is before from the Eitz Hadas Tova, they were totally rational. They understood themselves. They understood the place of attraction of the being, because Adam and Chava had to have an attraction. The case I told you in terms of the animals, Adam understood that his mate was not another animal. So he had to have a way of understanding that his mate was Chava. But the point is that the myriad of emotions and feelings that came across in the Eitz Hadas Tova truly, it was like an atomic explosion of their being. And they didn't know how to relate to it. And therefore that's where you start having this major idea that now you have to figure out how to take the different parts of your being and your understanding of reality and connect it together in terms of your way of relating within yourself.
So tznius is basic. So what you're saying is we express ourselves or converse with the outside world through things we say, things we do,
Yes.
things we wear,
Yes.
things we carry with us,
Yes.
and it's the overall message we're sending.
Right.
With all those things integrated together.
Right.
That can be done gracefully in a tznius manner.
Right.
Or not. So
Right.
the issue, I think, so this, the new generation today, essentially, I guess on some level we all know this intuitively, and so for teenagers, for example, you're not going to drive around in a Ferrari, and so you're using what you wear. I know because all the high schools our kids have gone to, the Rebbeim are always talking about tznius, and they're focusing on dress because that's actually the major.
But the issue is, there's a difference if you understand it that it reflects the personality. See, what I'm saying is there's a certain way it's the connection of self to reality. Okay? One of the things that happens with tznius, this is the example of the burqa, is the fact that you challenge yourself, you negate yourself. And basically what happens is you basically say, I'm going to become a non-entity in order to relate to the world in a certain way. Right? I'm going to become faceless. The point of the matter is what tznius really is an aspect of knowing how yourself relates to the world. And therefore there's an aspect of your personality in terms of relating to the world. Okay? And the point is you therefore carry yourself with a certain dignity, and you carry yourself with a certain grace. Tznius is not just it's not just wearing a sackcloth and not being a person. Tznius is, I am a person, I want to relate as a person, but the totality of who I am. Okay? And you want to give over the message of that person to others.
So I think,
And you want to take
one
in.
of the problems that most teens, especially girls, have with tznius is the limitations of the rules that have been set up, what is accepted tznius dress and where they came from and how strict they are.
Yeah. Because a lot of times they come from people who don't have this overall concept of tznius. And therefore what happens is that people think that you see people that they're dressed in a tzniustic fashion, but they're loud, they're insensitive in many ways in terms of how they conduct themselves in public. and they have no idea that that's aspect of tznius as well. The point of the matter is if you want to come across with tznius, you also have to have an idea of what the individual is and who you are and how do you want to portray yourself to the world as a complete human being. It's not just a negation of being. It's how you carry yourself in that being. Okay, and the point is you want to come across in terms of your personality. Yeah.
Just a question in terms of personality. So let's say a person is one of the most common personality traits that we define by in psychology is extroversion. Mm-hmm. So if a person is extremely extroverted and outgoing, generally you'd say a person wearing flashy colors would be, like in modern day people say, oh, that's unsneous. But if that's that person's personality, they happen to be an extremely extroverted person, is that unsneous?
So the fact is that sneous has to connect with the personality with the concept of how you balance it out. The extrovert is going to have a different aspect of how they dress than the introvert. But the point is there's a way for both of them to be sneistic in terms of their own being. Now, the truth of the matter is the greatest example of that is in terms of our relationships. Okay? What happens in terms of our relationships is that the concept being that each one of us forms a bond with another human being. Right? One of the big differences in terms of understanding Jewish sexuality, for example, is the fact that the ultimate sexual connection is between two specific human beings, which means that the bond is very, very individualistic, right? It's not general. So if you're going to say in terms of a sneous perception of, let us call the love bond or the connection people, it comes down to two individuals. Okay? This is my person. This is the person I'm attracted to, not the other person. So the point is that it's very, very individualistic. Okay? The point is sneus is an aspect of that individual aspect of that individuality as well, in terms of knowing how to relate to, in terms of knowing how you carry yourself as an individual and being specific to yourself within a sneistic idea. Now that involves understanding loudness. See, the point is there's a difference between the extrovert, that's his personality, and the extrovert who basically is overtaken by his loudness or overtaken by that idea. I mean, you see this in terms of different Rabbanim. Different Rabbanim had different personalities, and it's always, I always find it interesting that when you talk in terms of, let's say, in my generation, in terms of the Gedolim, Ramosha had a very different personality than Rav Hutner, than the Rav. The fact of the matter is that being a tzaddik didn't mean you didn't have a personality. You had a personality. You were a very different person. But there's a way of carrying yourself in terms of your personality. And that is an aspect of sneus. One of the things that we see this within Jewish thought, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov were all different individuals. Right? Avraham was very different than Yitzchak. Yitzchak was very different than Yaakov. There's a Chassidish Vort. I heard this. Some Chassidish Rebbe said this, but it really reflected personality. Avraham was Mr. Outgoing, took everyone in, Machnas Orech, he brought everyone in, all the people who became followers of Avraham Avinu, right? When he was really friendly, and he took everyone in, and he got all these people to believe in God, right? Right? That's what happened to, Avraham had supposedly a massive following of people who bought one God. Okay. But Yitzchak, we don't see that. So what happened to all the people who followed Avram when, with Yitzchak? What, Yitzchak wasn't a nice guy? Yitzchak also wasn't a person who took in, he lived in Yaakov's house, he lived in Avram's house. What, Yitzchak didn't know to take in people? He wasn't Machnas Orech? What do you think? What happened to Yitzchak? Did he no longer was Mr. Friendly anymore? What happened? Any ideas? Okay, so this Rebbe, he says, of course Yitzchak was trying to be Machnas Orach. Of course he tried to follow Avram Avinu. But he wasn't Avram. It wasn't his personality. If you're a very friendly guy and you're taking people in, and you can, people feel comfortable with you. They feel, yes, this is who you are. It's very great, and so forth and so forth. But if you've got a personality like Yitzchak, totally a tzaddik, totally trying to do the right thing, but he doesn't have that extroverted personality. You go over to his house, you're not going to have the same type of positive experience. It just doesn't flow as well, right? Okay, he's trying to be friendly, but it's not his personality. So it ain't going to work the same way. The fact is, when we talk about Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, we recognize that the three Avos all had different personalities, and they all found their way to be tzaddikim pursuant to their personality, pursuant to who they were. That's an aspect of how you carry yourself. So the extrovert is going to be different than the introvert, but there's a way of doing it with a recognition of the totality of the person. You're not going to be inappropriately loud, right? You're going to balance it out, and you're going to understand your place and so forth. That's all part of tznius. Tznius is basically knowing how to relate in the world with all its myriad of emotions and myriad of drives and myriad of personalities. And you know how to relate. Any questions? No?
That's good.
Well,
Yes.
one thought I had. So I had a conversation at a conference one time with 3 young women, and they were sort of pseudo-feminist young women, and they had the perspective that they should be able to wear micro skirts or whatever, and that if a man has a problem with it, it's his problem. And it struck me as a mistake that they were making, because what they're doing is we all have the power to fragment other people. So by fragmenting themselves, they're basically fragmenting the male in the room. They're bringing him down to his animal nature. And basically the genders have power over each other, and they have power to fragment each other. And so you determine what kind of person that will come back at you by approaching them in a certain direction.
Okay, you see, you've really presented another side of the coin, which I
That's a good side, by the way.
right. How you,
Because they, strictly speaking, have the right to do that, but they can't expect what's coming back at them to be a complex and dignified individual when they've asked for a non-complex and dignified individual.
What's happening is let me rephrase this in terms of Adam and Chava when the age when they saw. I called it a nuclear explosion. The fact is they recognize reality. Reality is my emotions, my drives, my feelings, and it's a recognition of the effect of those of what I do on others. See, the aspect of what we're talking about is the relationship of how I connect with myself and with others. I want to come across, what I was talking about is I want to come across of myself, that I want to be able to meet the challenge of being my complete self and not just one emotion or another. In the same way, when I relate to the world, I want to give others the chance to be themselves in their full sense and not basically try to bring out one emotion versus another emotion. The point is what you say in terms of the tzniistic person, is the tzniistic person will say, listen, I don't want to wear the micro skirt, because I don't want to portray myself as just this part of my body and not the totality of my personality. But I also don't want to bring that out in the other. I want to be able to relate to the fullness of the human experience.
I gave a seminar once, and there was a woman, a very attractive woman, who was giving a seminar in the same institution I was on the same day. And I would go from office to office meeting people, and there was a huge buzz. Everybody was talking about this woman, not about her science, but about how attractive she was. And it just struck me that she really missed an opportunity to impress people with their science.
Yeah. Now the question is that when she carried herself with attraction, there's a certain way of, in other words, the response of the burqa would be, don't be attractive at all, right? The point of the matter is a certain attraction that comes from the totality of the person. I would say that what happened with this person is she might have been attractive and it might have been an aspect of her personality, but mostly she carried herself in such a way that there was a focus very much on the attraction rather than the fullness of the personality. The truth is, what you're talking about in terms of tznius is a give and take. I want to come across as the fullness of my being, and I want to allow the world, the individuals, to come across with the fullness of their being. So the point is that that's the way we relate. Hasnei lechad im Elokecha is that aspect of walking gracefully with God. If you're graceful in your relationship to others, then basically you don't want to basically cause others to totally fragment. Right? I want to carry myself in a way that allows others to be themselves in the totality of their being, and I want to come across the totality of my being.
So what is the male version of, what was the word that's the opposite of tznius?
Princess.
So what's the male version of that?
Same thing, princess.
Well, I mean, males and females are different.
But you know something, saying lechem im Elokecha is not just a statement for women.
No, I know it is, but what I'm saying is that surely if someone has a six-pack or whatever, they're not supposed to be running around and showing everybody, but that's sort of not the norm. Men typically are not.
It's the shirts that wide open and the big gold chains.
But is it bragging or is it dominating?
It's all those things. There's a certain way. It's a certain way of not. Like we talk about the guy with the open shirt and the gold chain, or whatever. The point is, most likely he's a more extroverted person, and he's not going to dress as an introvert. But on the other hand,
They don't have that kind of power, though.
You know something? It's not just sexual. It's the fact is that it's a certain aspect of how you carry yourself, and whether you want to come across as
But it could be the
as
kind
loud.
of the conversation that you hear him from across the room. And
Right.
That's what I'm wondering.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely. The fact is that in our world today, we see a lot of people who, through their language or whatever, are trying to get across a point, and they're trying to make their point without a recognition of the totality of the situation, and that's very much part of what we're talking about here. See, it's not just a matter of how you dress; it's a matter of how you conduct yourself. It's a matter of how you walk. It's a matter of how you carry yourself. Fact is that in many ways, like, I get upset, like with some people that might be dressed in a very tzniustic manner, but you go into a store with them and they're rude to the people in the store. Like I'm in line next. No, I'm in line. Fact is
It still falls under the same category.
absolutely. How are you conducting yourself in public? And the point is, what you're raising is very true. I want to come across as a full human being, and I want to allow others to come across as a full human being. So if I'm wearing, in terms of a woman, if I'm wearing a microskirt, okay, yeah, he can control himself. But the point of the matter is I'm not being. But the fact is I'm becoming. in theoretical terms, if rather than my fullness of my being the factor in the world right now and being the stimulus in the world right now, I have chosen to have one part of my body be that stimulus, okay, which will bring out another aspect of a part of that person. The point is that's one of the reasons I get upset with the attempt to take women out of magazines, right? The point of the matter is that there is a person, there's a personality, there's a completion of the person.
What do you mean? Taking women out of magazines?
In certain Orthodox magazines, they won't have any pictures of women.
Yeah, there's that adoption ad, and it was 2 men, and then people thought it was implying something else.
Well, as another example, in some of the Hasidic areas where they wanted to watch the debates between Trump and Hillary, they would cover up the side of the TV where Hillary was and stuff.
Oh, I do that too.
Yeah, but for different reasons.
But you see, the fact is that Hillary wasn't dressed in a tznius fashion, and they were concerned about that. No, the fact of the matter is that there is a personality. There's a way of relating to a person. It's very interesting. A person once said to me that when I talk to once pointed out something to me in terms of the way that I talk to women. And she said, something, I never saw a rabbi so much. When you talk to me, you look straight into my eyes. Okay? You look straight in my eyes. She says, I never saw a rabbi do that before. Rabbis are only diverting away or something and so forth. And I look straight into their eyes. And the person, I said, well, where else should I look? Right? The point is, when you look a person straight in their eyes, what are you looking at? Looking at the totality of the person. Right? I mean, the person wasn't saying, the person was basically saying that means I want to see the fullness of that person. Okay? Now, that's an aspect of seeing that person, and that's why one of the things that happens, I think, with ways, is that in certain ways, what happens in, let's say, the Arab understanding, the Muslim understanding of trying to be modest by basically covering up any type of sexuality, then has a reverse effect in terms of the totality of the person is lost. So what you're left with is just the person as a sexual being. Okay, in many ways, when you stop having women being in pictures in the magazine, then the woman becomes even more of a sexual object, because the fullness of that person is not there. Now, the point is, as I pointed out, tznius is proper sexuality. Part of being a man or a woman is the sexual nature of the relationship, which should be a factor in completion in terms of finding their mate. But the point is, it's an aspect of how we carry ourselves. But the truth is, it's how we carry ourselves as full human beings and total human beings, and how we want to bring out the totality of human beings and others. So the truth is that the woman, I remember once having to talk to a real estate agent, this woman real estate agent, and she was wearing the shortest skirt possible. I think the shortest skirt possible. And that was her normal clothes, and so forth and so forth. And I figured out, well, that must be the way that she feels she's going to be effective as a real estate agent. The point is that it made me uncomfortable because I wanted to relate to the person. But and that's the way I relate to people. Okay? The fact is that I want to be around people who want to express their whole being to me. But that doesn't just come with the way you dress. It's the way you carry yourself. It's the way you are in public, the way you talk. Okay, it's the way you carry yourself as a full human being, and that's lost in many people. Okay, they even can dress sneistically, and they don't carry themselves in a sneistic fashion. Okay, and that really is very hard to see, because they're misrepresenting their total being, and they're bringing out responses in other people that doesn't bring out the totality of the other person. Which is what I like what you brought up here, in the sense that sneis is really how you want to carry yourself. But the fact of the matter is, part of way you want to carry yourself is how you want others to relate back to you. And you want to bring out that full human being in others.
Question?
Yes.
So I think an issue that a lot of girls, especially teenage girls, have is that we're not allowed to wear pants, and I don't really understand why that's an issue, because in some ways they can actually be even more sneers than skirts.
If you notice, Muslims wear pants.
Yeah.
So the fact is, they clearly see it as more sneers than skirts. That's a real difficult question. There are certain Rabbanim that mutter pants. Open up by that, okay? The prohibition of pants is not a universal prohibition. There are people who mutter pants if pants are loose, okay? The argument is like this. Supposedly they say that Rav Yoshe ber Soloveitchik said that eventually pants will be okay because it depends upon society. There's two aspects of sneas. There's one aspect of sneas which is like black and white, okay? Has nothing to do with society. You shouldn't wear a bikini. You know, that seems to be that the sneas you're talking about there is pretty black and white and pretty straightforward in the halachic statement. Then you get into issues of what we call societal sneas. If the society wears skirts down to their ankles, you should wear skirts down to their ankles. If society wears skirts to their knees, you can wear skirts to your knees. So the knees to the ankles is dependent upon society. And yes, if you're in a society that has skirts to their ankles and you're wearing skirts to their knees, in that society it'll be like you wearing a bikini. Okay? The question then exists, what about pants? So the truth is the first issue about was beged ish, was it clothes of the opposite sex, right? Okay, so if it really was clothes of the opposite sex, then that would be a problem. But once the society started wearing pants, then you can't argue clothes of the opposite sex. So then it got into issues of sneas, and that really was a societal issue. Okay, is how does society respond to it? So in certain societies, wearing pants does have a certain aspect of being so contrary to the norm because it shows the female form more. Therefore, there was issues of pants. So there were Rabbanim who said, wait a second, if you're wearing loose pants like culottes and so forth, no different than culottes and a skirt. Okay, so therefore there are people who say that's okay. There's other people who say, no, the fact is if society starts wearing pants, and we're talking about general society, then pants is no longer going to have the same type of reaction and would be okay because it does cover up the body and so forth. So there are people who basically say halachically it's okay to wear pants. The general viewpoint of general Orthodox world is, or not to wear pants because of because the general Orthodox society is not to wear pants, and therefore pants is considered to be somewhat pushing the line on that type of attraction. But there are Rabbanim who say nowadays you can wear pants. Okay? It's a matter where tznius has to take into account the society around you. And the fact is there are certain things which are black and white in terms of tznius, and there's certain things which depend upon what kind of reaction you're going to get in the society. Okay? And that's understandable. Okay? In the sense that, like I said, in terms of a skirt, if you're wearing a skirt to your knees and everyone around is wearing a skirt to their ankles, you are that showing your calves is going to create a reaction that's going to take you away from the fullness of the person. On the other hand, if you're in a society where that's the way people dress, then it's not going to create that reaction. But that's a matter of understanding the aspects of society.
In some senses, the word society is critical here, right? That there's community and society.
Yeah, that becomes an issue in halachic discussion. In the sense of what does the general society wear, and what happens within, let's say, the Orthodox community. That might be another aspect of the general society is wearing. The argument is, if general society is wearing pants, then you're not going to have. Then basically that has influence in terms of the Orthodox world. Other people say no. It depends what's going on in the Orthodox world. It's a matter, this becomes an understanding of what you're relating to, and so forth. If a woman says, I want to wear those pants because I'm really hot in those pants, then you would sit there and say, wait a sec. Being hot in those pants is not a tzniustic reason for you to wear pants. Do you know what I'm saying? But I'm using the colloquial language, right? But the fact of the matter is that what? Yeah, I'm a hip rabbi, right? Okay, but the fact of the matter is that if you understand how you carry yourself in terms of that idea, then there's an idea of how you want to come across and so forth. There are certain people I've heard who basically say, something? Wearing pants in a specific situation is more tzniustic than wearing a skirt, right? In terms of, in terms of what their activity is at that point in time, right? So the point is, it's all part of that. It's all part of that perspective.
Right. I think one of the interesting things you brought up is, obviously, you're having to make a calculation on how you want to be perceived by the around.
Yes.
So it's how you act, what you say,
right,
and what you wear. And I think what makes it tough is that you have teenagers who are having to deal with that, but then also there's a little bit of rebellion, not always doing exactly what you're being told.
Yeah.
You're having to sort of factor that all in. And so, are they doing something? What exactly?
There's also the reality that you're dealing with a change in their feelings, hormones, whatever. The fact is, as I mentioned beforehand, there's an attempt to try and find tznius as the absence of sexuality, and that's very much what you see when you read about the burqa. It's like there's a total absence of sexuality. I don't want to be perceived. The fact of the matter is what you're dealing with is an aspect of proper sexuality. Proper sexuality includes how you carry yourself. But included in that has to be a recognition that in terms of how someone wants to dress, they do want to. There's an aspect of proper sexuality in being attractive on a basic level. Obviously, there's different balances to that, and so forth and so forth. But it's not like tznius is not a total absence of saying, I do not want to be. I'm going to come across as plain Jane as possible. Okay, that part of who we are is an idea that we do want to carry ourselves as some level of attraction. Okay, but there has to be that aspect to it. Okay, but I don't think that ties to the pants. I think the issue in terms of pants is much more practical. Okay, a lot of times it's easier for pants. So there are people who are matir pants. Okay, I'm not generally known as one who does. But when my kids told me they had poskim that, when my girl said they had poskim who said yes, I said, okay, you rely upon those poskim. So I'm sort of like a semi-liberal, as my kids say, we don't like asking you questions, but on the other hand, we go along whoever we ask to a large extent, but not totally. Okay, so they learned not to ask me questions. Okay. Anyways, but I hope it's a there's a Gemara. It says one of the aspects of tznius was Rachel Imenu in giving over the code to Leah, to her sister, right? And you look at this, and think about this. That story is absolutely unbelievable. If you think about that, right? Yaakov knew that Lavan was going to pull the thing, switch it in terms of Leah. Leah Imenu goes along with it because she doesn't want to end up with Esav, so she goes along with it. Okay, she knows she's getting set up to get married to Yaakov, and Yaakov has this thing. Okay, we're going to give the password. I want a password, gives it over to Rachel. Rachel then goes to her sister Leah and tells her, listen, Yaakov's going to want to make sure that you're me. She's going to ask you for the password. Here's the password. Remarkable act by Rachel, right? Basically giving up her. I mean, it's remarkable. It's remarkable.
Does he ever get upset with Rachel for doing that?
Doesn't seem to be. When he ended up marrying her, the fact of the matter is that Rachel's there. Now, Rachel is called, what's the term that Rachel is referred to by doing that? It's an example of tznius. Now, why is it an example of tznius? It's a tremendous chesed, but why is it an example of tznius?
Because that's one of the elements she wants to portray.
But why is that tznius? Why is that tznius? Why is that an example of tznius?
Because it's grace. She's not showing up her sister. I mean, she's not creating a
It's
scene.
a sensitivity to the situation. Okay? And that's what tznius is about.
That being sensitive to your parents.
Sensitive to your children.
Sensitive to your siblings.
All those things about sensitivity.
It's not a thing about rebelling, because if it were, then we would be wearing pants. Yeah, it's actually very true.
Exactly. I'm glad we're on the same page.
And
I don't know why you guys are so into pants.
No, but like
they're not really that exciting.
I think it's a push against authority.
No, it's
push
a
against the rules. You don't like the
That's not
rules.
what it is. It's hard when you're in different situations where it would be easier to wear pants. For example, when you're working in a lab or when you go to a lab at school, everyone there is wearing pants and you're not. And then you are standing out, and it's uncomfortable. And then the lab tech has to go to the back and get you a pair of pants because he doesn't like your skirt and things like that.
Yeah, you can get kicked out of a lab at school for having bare legs, for example, or something like that.
Okay, so I'm in hot water now because I just said there are people who are matir.
No,
okay.
we knew there were people who are matir. It's not an issue.
you know something, it's a difficult situation, but now you're dealing with another situation. You're dealing with having to follow the authority of the people who lay down the law for you, because you're still in your parents' house. So when you get your own rabbi, now you know what the criteria is for one of your rabbis. Okay, we're looking for rabbis who say, but the fact of the matter is that that's all part of the situation. The truth is, see, before I put my foot in my mouth, which I've already done, relating to the world is really what it's all about. The very fact you can put this on the table is important in order to have discussions. And what rabbis you're going to relate to. And rabbis are the poskim for your family. And being bound by that situation within an understanding of the full perspective. You see, what always hits me is that so many people attempt to try and accomplish their goals by, I don't want to use the word lying, but by narrowing the possibilities. If we don't tell people this, they won't know. If you don't know there's a shita like that, then it will never come up. So people like to set their authority by maintaining a very narrow perspective of reality. The fact is that this is the other side of tznius. In a certain way, what Adam and Chava had was a situation where they did see the world, and then tznius had to be knowing how to balance it. So one of the aspects of tznius is knowing how to relate within a certain realm that you're in. Okay? And that's the realm of the psak of the family. Okay? If you aren't an independent being yet. So how do you relate within the family situation? Okay? That's aspect of, but that comes about by knowing yourself and being able to relate through discussion. So the one thing I would say is it's important. It's good that you put it on the table. Okay, this is an issue. You know the different ideas, but the fact of the matter is you live in a certain environment, right? Okay, you get free room and board.